Yeah.
Good for you. I'm so proud of
Yeah.
you for doing that. So the other part of your self-care that you've been talking about is going to therapy. And you know, Black people are still like, nope, we're not going to therapy, we're not doing this. So talk a little more about like what let you know that you needed to go to therapy and kind of what that experience has been like for you.
So I've always had anxiety, and my first therapist helped me recognize that. I thought it was like something that was onset by like that was situational. So I've always been an anxious person, and I still am an anxious person. So in August of last year, this is a really random story, I had a job that was stressing me out. I was on call, which is very hard to do when you have all these doctor appointments that you need to be at in the morning, or when you have to be at work by a certain time, but you need to be at the clinic by 7, and then sometimes they'll run late and you're late to work. It's just a lot. And then I wasn't dealing with the fertility treatment well, and I really point to that also, is I wasn't receiving adequate care. I feel like we were stagnating back then. And my job was stressful. So then my husband, as we had been talking about it for so long, he gets me a puppy, and I lose it. Like, I had a panic attack for the first time, like, in my life, like, because I felt like my home was the only place I had that I could control the environment and I can relax. And then we brought this dog home, and a puppy especially, the dog was everywhere. You had to wake up with him in the middle of the night, and I was like, I literally cannot take one more stressful thing in my life. So luckily I get him from rescue, so we had to rehome the dog, because I would have panic attacks thinking about going home. Like, I have 5 appointments trying to go here. I'm on call during the night, so I would be, at this time I think they had switched to like a 24-hour on-call schedule, so I could be calls out of my sleep at any point in the night. So that also kept me like anxious and on edge. So after the panic attacks, and after we realized that I really couldn't function in taking care of this animal, and it wasn't fair to my husband, who would have to do all the work, and he was like, it's fine, I'll do all the work. And I'm like, no, that's not fair to you. And I was like, I need to go talk to somebody about this, because you think you're like bottling it all up well, and then something like that just kind of smacks you, and you're like, it's like, no, girl, you need, something's going on. Like, a puppy shouldn't give you that kind of anxiety. So then I went to my previous clinic offered a weekly support group for everybody going through things. So then I went to, actually I think I had went to the support group before the dog breakdown, and I realized I needed like one-on-one help. But that was really helpful. So that was like my first, well, we had done some premarital counseling with a spiritual leader and a therapist before we got married. But by the way, everybody should do that. That was really helpful. Yeah. Or even if you're married, you should just sit down and talk to people, which is really good. So then that happened, and I was like, I need to talk to somebody. So I found a lady who specialized in infertility, who was also within the same geographical area as my job and clinic and all of that. So then I started talking to her, and she just gave me that validation that like, there's nothing wrong with you. Adding a dog at any point in this process is very stressful on people. She was like, it's not me. And she really helped me learn that, like, it's not just you. This is completely normal. So with her, she was really big on mindfulness, and we did a lot of like breathe to relax type stuff, like meditative breathing to help you calm down your anxiety. So that was helpful. I saw her up until April. Yeah, I saw her up until March, and I started with this new therapist in April. And I mean, she was a great therapist. I think going through this process, I just needed something more for my sessions. So I found another doctor through lots of Googles who also specialized in infertility, but she happened to be a Black woman. And to me, I had come out about my infertility journey at the beginning of this year, I feel like, because I kept being called. Like, I felt like it was on my heart, like, I need to share this. Like, I need to share this. I need to help other people. Because I would go on YouTube and watch people go through their infertility journeys or their adoption journeys, and they never looked like me. So I was like, I kept seeing messages, like, and then this new church that we started going to, they started a series, like, a trip around the sun and what will you accomplish, like, on your walk with God or your walk in your life in 365 days. So I was like, I think it's my time to share. So I started sharing in January. And I think that's kind of where my previous therapist and I kind of diverged. And, you know, it wasn't a good fit anymore, so I found a new one. And she is a Black woman, who specializes in infertility, which is so random and rare.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, hey, this is what I'm all about, so let me try her out. And she's been really amazing and really listening and kind of understanding where I'm coming from culturally, which is,
So important.
yes, when your therapist, like, you know, there's up to a certain point you can have, and I know not everybody has the luxury of finding, like, a therapist of color where they are, but up to a certain point you can commiserate with experiences, but from like a cultural and a social standpoint, I think we were never on the same page. My new doctor, she's really awesome. She really helps me. She put me on a bunch of new things, like a Black-owned yoga studio over on the west side. I was like,
Yes.
this is why I'm here. She's just really helpful, and I feel like she's really, really pulling for me. And she's actually watched my videos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she was like, she wanted to see where she asked me permission, of course. Like, she wanted to see where I was at the point. And I was like, my videos are very accurate in how the progression of where I got to where I am now right before I started seeing her. So yeah, it's been really helpful. I feel really good. And yeah, when it stops feeling good after you go to a session, then maybe it's time to find a new therapist.
And it's okay.
Yeah,
to
that's
find a new
fine. Yeah.
therapist. So talking a little bit more about kind of where you are now, like one of the things that I noticed, and I was telling you this earlier, I noticed how you kind of shifted from like the optimism, the hopefulness, kind of the motivation to keep going to this place of like just wanting to give up and just like doubting it and just feel like, I remember you saying like really in one of the videos. And so can you talk about like kind of where you are emotionally now in regards to this process?
Yeah, so now it's very volatile. So my emotions are all over the place, and that could be my hormones still, because I'm still not too negative just yet. But yeah, like right when it happened, and right when the day I found out we had to have the DNC the next day, I was just kind of like my mom got really upset, and even Doug got upset, and I was just kind of like I just wanted an answer one way or another. And that's something that I struggle with, and that I need to work on, and we are working on it, is I need to know what to do to keep moving forward. I hate being in this position. So if you have like a regular or a normal miscarriage, usually once you get your first cycle, you're usually cleared to conceive. But because of this molar, I have to wait until my levels are at 0 for 6 months. So that, especially in the infertility world, and you know, time is money when you're trying to have a baby. The older you get, the more your fertility declines. So that 6 months, to me, especially since I had already taken like a 3-month break at the end of last year because I wanted to enjoy the holidays, my birthday, get through that, and then start up at the end of January, and then to be benched again for 6 months, I'm just like, it makes me like so hot. But you know, we'll have a consult, we'll talk about it. I just need steps to move forward. Like, hey, maybe if you started, I don't know, acupuncture or something like that, if you started running, like, I just wish I had, like, you know, the steps to it. But, like, as far as, like, how I am, like, emotionally, it really varies. And like I said before, like, having to take myself out of group chat, like, things would set me off, and my whole day is done. Like, I'm sad for the whole day after that. And there's things like that, like social media, like, I think I've done a good job of, like, show me fewer of these things. Don't show me pregnant people on my Instagram feed. That it's now, and the infertility community on Instagram is actually really big, and they're all really supportive. And I found like a lot of people that I can really relate to and talk to through there. So I'm on there, and you know, I'll go to support boards, and it'll just be like a scroll, and I'm like, oh look, these people are pregnant, or oh look, these people are pregnant again, and it'll send me off into like a nosedive. And I think, you know, and this is what I'm trying to do, like my whole thing when I started sharing was like, I hate how perfect social media is.
Yes.
Everyone is always like, everything's awesome, my life is awesome, I got pregnant on the first month. And I mean, and I understand that like nobody can really get it unless you've been through it. Nobody can get going through infertility, nobody can get through going through miscarriage unless you've been through it. But at the same time, it's still like random things will just make me sad. Like Friday, we went out, and I just got so sad. Like, and I was wearing this little thing that showed like my stomach, and I was like, just like really sad all of a sudden that I'm not supposed to be wearing this, because I would have been like 4.5 months pregnant at this point, and that just set me off on a tangent, and I had to go home because I couldn't be out anymore. So it's like things like that, and I think that's probably why, like, and I've also not been going out as much, or when we go out, I don't want to go around people I know, because like something will set me off, and then I'll just be sitting here like, okay, I'm sad, and I know I need to feel these things, I need to go through it to get to the other side, if there is another side of what this is. So that's kind of where I am now, and I think people, and it's like I want to share what's happening, but I don't want people to, again, and we've talked about this in therapy too, that I'm trying to protect other people's feelings, and I'm like, it's so hard, like every single day, and I get so many messages from people who are just very empathetic through what I'm going through, like, oh, you make me so sad. I'm like, I'm not sharing it to make anybody sad, I'm sharing it to make it real. Like, this is the reality. Like, I do these things, but I sit home and I cry for 3 hours. Like, or I binge watch shows for hours and hours and hours because I can't just be sitting idle. So, yeah, that's just kind of what it is. And it's normal, like, you'll be fine, and then something will set you off. And then I'll be okay, but lately I've noticed the times are getting longer in between being okay. But then when I have like a setback, I don't want to call it a setback, I want to call it like a reminder or something like that. A reminder, it can send me into a spiral for like a few days, and I'll be sad for a few days after that until I get back, you know, on track again. But yeah, and I recognize that it's gonna be hard. October, because that's when we would have been due, is gonna be hard. So that's all you can do. Like, I sit there and I think like, I can't wait until this phase of my life is over. But then who knows what the next phase is. Like, for going through this, it's like, I feel like anything can happen. You know, like anything can happen. So now I'm really like, I try not to be paranoid about it, but now I'm like super scared for like trying again, because this is so rare. Like, these don't happen to people usually. And I'm like, well, anything can happen, so what do I do now? But yeah, I take it one day at a time. I try not to beat myself up about it. And my husband's really supportive, so